service, including the order of service, are on our website and in this morning's worship service email. If you are here in the sanctuary this morning, please silence your cell phones. My name is Michael Woods. This is Ruby. I've been a member of KUUF for over 10 years. I'm married into the Sugimoto family. Ruby's been a member for just over 2 years. We're happy to be here this morning. Our worship leader this morning is Reverend Carol McKinley. She is KUUF's current bridge minister and serves on the Healthy Congregations team for the Pacific Western region of the UUA. I'd like to welcome any visitors. If you are here in person, we all would love to welcome you outside after the service. If you are attending virtually, please introduce yourselves after the service at our Zoom coffee hour. Everyone is welcome to attend our Zoom coffee hour directly after this service. The link is in the email that went out this morning and will show on your screen following the worship service. You may need to use the password coffee with a capital C to be admitted to the coffee hour. The announcements are available on our website, www.kuuf.org, or in our weekly email newsletter, The Candle. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the Aboriginal territory of the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers, the Suquamish lived in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's Central Salish Sea for thousands of years. Here, the Suquamish live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. Please stand as you're willing and able to sing our musical call to worship, hymn number 368. Here we have gathered. Please note we have made a slight change to the lyrics of the second verse in order to make them more inclusive. These will be reflected on the screen.
seated. Welcome, everyone, and today is indeed a special day. It's our first intergenerational service for this year. It's also our first in-person new member welcome ceremony and our first in-person flower communion in more than 2 years. So here we are together. Of course, the postponement of these beloved gatherings was made necessary for the need to care for the health and safety of everyone at KUUF. But today we are privileged to celebrate being together, including with those of you who are at home and joining us online. And we're here together to welcome those who are new members of this faith community and to participate in this old tradition of the flower communion. By exchanging flowers, we show our willingness to walk together in our search for truth, disregarding all that might divide us. Each person will take home a flower brought by someone else, symbolizing the sharing within this community. This communion of sharing is essential to a free people of a free religion. Once again, welcome. It is good to be together.
Let us light our chalices together with these words by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. Within the heart of the flower, the fountain of beauty, within the heart of the community, a fire that warms and dances. Within the heart of each of us, a spark of the spirit of life. May that spirit continue to shine in this world. Please join me now in our spoken affirmation. The words will appear on the screens. We gather as a caring community seeking life's deeper meanings. We value diversity and affirm the worth of all living things. We strive to speak truth in love, to act for justice, to grow in spirit, and to care for the earth. We celebrate with open hearts and minds the creative power that sustains and transforms us.
Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you all here and to see that we have some young people among us today that they might stay in the service the whole time because it's an intergenerational service today. You see they have some color pages, or they might decide that it's time to go play. And so throughout the service, the parents, you might see them getting up and walking out, or we might see some wiggly little ones, but that's okay because we are all here in community together. This morning, I am going to share a story with you called Wanda's Roses. It's our flower communion. Some of the children might have heard this story a couple weeks ago, but we'll learn about community through this story. One morning in May, on the way to school, Wanda noticed a bush growing in the empty corner lot at Fillmore and Hudson Streets. It must have been growing for a while, because it was about 2 feet tall, and Wanda was surprised. She hadn't noticed it before. But there it was, bare and thorny, and Wanda, who loved beautiful things, felt her heart beat faster. A rose bush, she said to herself, my very own rose bush. Now, the rose bush didn't really belong to Wanda, but since nobody seemed to own the lot or the heaps of junk that were piled there, she decided she would care for this bush and make it her own. All during school, she thought about her rose bush. During art, she drew pictures of what it would look like in bloom. During library, she borrowed books on arranging flowers. During science, she asked so many questions about how to take care of it that finally her teacher said she really must stop asking questions about roses and start thinking about electricity, which was what the lesson was about. After school, she rushed to the rose bush. It was still bare and thorny. Maybe it needs some more sun, thought Wanda. So she put down her school bag and began dragging some of the nearby trash out to the curb. Mrs. Turner, who was on her way to the store, stopped to help her with a broken chair. "Cleaning up the neighborhood, Wanda?" Mrs. Turner asked. "That's a nice project for you." "Oh, I'm not just cleaning," Wanda told her. "I'm helping my rose bush to get more sun so it will bloom." "Your rose bush?" Mrs. Turner asked. "Where is your rose bush?" "Over there," Wanda said, pointing proudly to the bare, thorny bush. "Oh, Wanda, I'm not so sure that's a rose bush," Mrs. Turner said gently. "Sure it is," said Wanda. "I've seen rose bushes in books, and this is what they look like before they bloom. You just wait. In a few weeks, this lot will be full of roses." "Well," said Mrs. Turner, shaking her head, "good luck with it, Wanda." And she walked away. Mrs. Turner thought to herself, if that's a rose bush, then I'm the Queen of England. The next day after school, Wanda hurried to her rose bush. It was still bare and thorny. Maybe it needs more air, thought Wanda. So she put down her school bag and began taking more of the trash out to the curb. "Once I get all this trash out of here, nothing will block the air from getting to my rose bush," Wanda thought. Mr. Claudel was on his way home from work, saw Wanda trying to drag an old door, and stopped to help. "Cleaning up the neighborhood, are you, Wanda?" he asked. "Not just cleaning, Mr. Claudel," Wanda told him. "I'm getting rid of this trash so my rose bush will get more air." "A rose bush? Here?" Mr. Claudel asked. And so Wanda showed him the rose bush. "I don't know much about gardening, Wanda," Mr. Claudel said, frowning, "but I don't think that's a rose bush." "Sure it is," said Wanda, "and in a few weeks, this lot will be filled with the sweetest smelling roses you ever saw." She thanked Mr. Claudel for his help and went off to drag away some more trash. Mr. Claudel shook his head. "If that's a rose bush," he said to himself, "then I'm the King of France." Every day after school that week and the next, Wanda worked in the empty lot. Mrs. Giamatti, who lived in an apartment next door, gave Wanda trash bags for the old shoes, beer bottles, broken toys, and bits of glass that she was picking up. "You've done a great job cleaning up this lot, Wanda," said Mrs. Giamatti. "Oh, I'm not just cleaning," Wanda said. "I have to get rid of all this trash so my rose bush will get enough sun and fresh air to bloom." "But where is your rose bush?" Mrs. Giamatti asked. So Wanda showed her. Mrs. Giamatti put her hand on Wanda's shoulder and spoke softly to her. "Wanda," she said, "this is not a rose bush." "Oh, but it is," said Wanda, "and in a few weeks this lot will be filled with the most beautiful roses you ever saw." "That would be nice," said Mrs. Giamatti, "but I don't want you to be disappointed if this bush doesn't bloom." "Don't worry, Mrs. Giamatti," Wanda answered. "I won't be disappointed." Mrs. Giamatti sighed. "That is not a rose bush and never will be one," she thought to herself. The next week, when the rose bush still wasn't blooming, Wanda talked to her school librarian. "I need some books about getting roses to bloom," she told Mrs. Jones. "Oh, do you have a rose bush, Wanda?" Mrs. Jones asked. "Yes, but it doesn't have flowers yet, and I know it has enough sun and fresh air." "Does it have enough water?" Ms. Jones asked. "Water," Wanda said. "Of course. That will make it bloom." That afternoon, she hurried to the rose bush. It was still bare and thorny. She looked at the dry ground and smiled. "Don't worry, little bush," she said out loud. "I'll get you some water, and then you'll be able to grow flowers." Wanda went to the butcher shop across the street. "Mr. Sanchez, would you please give me some water for my rose bush?" "Rose bush? Is that what I see you taking care of and talking to every day over there? Are you sure that's a rose bush, Wanda?" Mr. Sanchez asked. "Oh, yes, I'm sure," Wanda said, "but it can't bloom because it needs water." Mr. Sanchez gave her water in a plastic bucket. "I hope that really is a rose bush, Wanda," he said, looking at her doubtfully. "You'll see," Wanda told him, "in a few weeks that whole lot will be full of roses." As Wanda carried the water to her rose bush, Mr. Sanchez muttered, "In a few weeks, that thorn bush will still be a thorn bush." Every day Wanda ran to her rose bush after school, but every day it was still bare and thorny. She watered it and sang to it and checked its bare branches for roses. Mr. Claudel, on his way home from work, stopped to see if there were any roses yet. Mrs. Turner, on her way to the butcher shop, stopped to see if there were any roses yet. Mrs. Giamatti, seeing Wanda in the lot, called down from her apartment to ask if there were any roses yet. When Wanda went to the library at school, Miss Jones asked if there were any roses yet. And every day when Wanda went to the butcher shop for water, Mr. Sanchez asked if there were any roses yet. To each person, Wanda would answer the same thing: "Just you wait. Pretty soon this whole lot will be filled with roses." And then one day in June, Wanda had an idea. Looking at the bare, thorny bush, she said, "If my rose bush won't give roses to me, I'll just have to give roses to my rose bush." And when she saw Mrs. Turner, Mr. Claudel, Mrs. Giamatti, Ms. Jones, and Mr. Sanchez, she gave each of them an invitation that said, "Please come for tea and muffins in Wanda's rose garden, Saturday morning at 9. "Oh dear," said Mrs. Turner, "is she still expecting to get roses from that bush?" "Oh no," said Mr. Claudel, "and she's worked so hard too." "Oh my," said Mrs. Giamatti, "she'll be so disappointed." "Oh darn," said Mr. Sanchez, "there must be something I can do." "Oh good," said Miss Jones, who had only heard about the bush from Wanda and hadn't seen it for herself, "and I'll bring the muffins." The night before the tea party, everyone was very busy, and the next morning at 9, everyone was surprised to see Wanda's rose bush covered with roses. Paper roses that Wanda had made herself and carefully tied to each bare, thorny branch. But more surprising yet, everyone who came to the party had brought along a rose bush to plant near Wanda's, except for Ms. Jones, who had brought delicious blueberry muffins. After they had eaten their muffins and drunk their tea, they all got busy planting rose bushes. Mr. Claudel and Mrs. Turner dug the holes. Mrs. Giamatti held the bushes in place while Wanda and Ms. Jones filled in around the roots with soil, and Mr. Sanchez brought water from his shop and watered them all thoroughly. When the work was finished, Mr. Claudel said, "Wanda, this is going to be a rose garden fit for a king." "Or a queen," said Mrs. Turner. Wanda and the others smiled. And later that summer, the whole lot was filled with the biggest, most beautiful, sweetest smelling roses that anyone had ever seen, just as Wanda had said it would be.
Thank you, Melinda. Our next hymn is set to a familiar hymn with lyrics by 19th century poet Samuel Longfellow. Please stand as you're willing and able to sing hymn number 12, "O Life That Maketh All Things New." Brian will play it once through before we join in singing. Now it is time for our morning offering. If your offering is for KUUF, please put it in the envelopes and the baskets. Loose change, cash, or checks placed in the basket will go to this month's recipient of our charitable giving, the Bremerton chapter of the NAACP. If this is your first time at KUUF, you are our guest, and there is no need to contribute. Let there be an offering to strengthen and sustain our community, which is sacred to so many of us. Let's enjoy a gift of music from our pianist, Brian Kenny. Now is the time for our joys and sorrows. When shared together, our joys are amplified and our sorrows are lessened. Bonner said you wanted to read it yourself. I'll read it for you, okay. Bonner's joy is that his recent COVID infection was super mild. Yay, vaccines, boosters, and therapeutics. Mindy Thomas has a joy and a sorrow. The sorrow is Mindy's grandpa passed away yesterday. He was 93 and a joy to be around. And Grace graduated with her master's in education from the University of Washington yesterday. Yay. Judy's joy is that Hobie Denny has celebrated his 95th birthday this past week, but the sorrow is he's moving to Arizona permanently. We will miss seeing him in person here. From Janice Webb, I am thankful for the recent reunion of my family in Scottsdale. My sons Ed Luby and Dan Luby are my pride and joy. From Dorothy Gwynn, a joy for successfully navigating the next chunk of disability retirement for my amazing husband of 36 years. From Angie Vandrelen, my joy is that my sons each received an award at the end of year school assemblies this week. Edward Moyer finished 5th grade, and received a certificate of excellence for getting all A's and B's. And James Moyer finished 4th grade and received a Presidential Award for Academic Excellence, along with a letter from the president and a pin. We've been through a lot since we left Bremerton 5 years ago, and these boys have been amazing. From Samantha Elliott, sorrow for my dear friend whose 28-year-old daughter passed away suddenly this week. I lift her family up and give them strength and courage to get through this. From Ellen and Alan Newberg, Alan and Ellen have a joy in that they recently celebrated their 57th anniversary on June 11th. From me, for my cousin Matt and Elisa, who tragically lost their 10-year-old daughter on Friday in a terrible car accident. She was just riding her bike and a truck left the road, and they are carrying an unbearable burden. And to their family and their kids. And I think we should end on a joy. So I'm going to add 2 joys. To all the graduates from our community, we had several graduation ceremonies at the high school, and a special thank you to the folks that put on the pink prom, which I got a chaperone on Friday night. It was incredibly fun and a wonderful opportunity for me to be around some really lovely human beings. And we light one last candle for those joys and sorrows that are still too tender to share. Please join me in a moment of prayer or intention. In the spirit of community in which we find strength and common purpose, we share our joys, our sorrows, our hopes and dreams. We have turned our minds and hearts toward one another in trust, giving love, seeking comfort, and celebrating together. We are part of the web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. In all the moments of our lives, for those loved ones and events shared this morning, and for those we yet hold in the silence of our hearts, we are truly grateful for the love and support of this beloved community. May the spirit of life and love bring peace to us all. Amen, and blessed be. Please remain seated as we sing Spirit of Life, hymn number 123 in our gray hymnal. For those at home, the words will appear on your screen.
In his poem, Why Join a Unitarian Universalist Congregation, John Wolfe writes, "There is only one reason for joining a Unitarian Universalist church, and that is to support it. We want to support it because it stands against superstition and fear, because it points to what is noblest and best in human life. It is open to all of whatever religion, race, creed, color, place of origin, political affiliation, gender, identity, or sexual orientation. It is a place where children can learn that religion is for joy, comfort, gratitude, and love. It is a place where walls between people are torn down rather than built up. It is more concerned with human beings than with dogma. It searches for the holy and knows how great is the hunger for what is good in this life. It calls us to worship what is truly worthy of our sacrifice. And thus endeth that reading.
Good morning, everyone, again. Am I on? Do I need to turn it on? It's on. Okay, good. And I need to figure out how to lower it here because I have two young people coming to help me this morning. Ashlyn and Henry are going to come up. We're going to be making something together, a collaborative art project, if you will. We're going to do a bouquet of community. So just like Wanda had her roses and her community came together to make her rose garden, we're going to do a collaborative project after the service on the breezeway. There are all these petals, and each person can take a pencil and write those down. I'm not going to pass them around in here. We'll do it on the breezeway after the service, where you can share why you enjoy coming to KUUF. So in the spirit of giving an example, Ashlyn and Henry are going to share why they enjoy coming to KUUF. Come on over and read yours. Is that too low? Is that good?
Because there are so many wonderful people here.
Helping the community.
Can you say it one more time, really close?
Helping the community.
So thank you. So you will all have an opportunity to share yours, and then over the next week, I will put them up on the bulletin board in the shape of a big flower, and you can all see what we all find value of in this community.
Down here at ground level. So all of you will be joining us. Today we're going to recognize and welcome a number of people who have joined KUUF in the past 2 years. Now, of course, we've been unable to gather as a community to do this ceremony until only recently. So they haven't been recognized in the traditional way, which is our ritual of welcome. Today, we're thrilled to have all of you with us, and some of you new members will also be online, and we're thrilled to have you with us in that way. And we're able to greet you, of those of you who are here, to greet you in person. I invite Rosemary Dougal, who is chair of the Welcoming and Membership Committee, to join me. Rosemary and I will read the names of our new and renewing members, and then please come forward. And if you're coming forward, please bring with you your order of service, because the words for our ceremony are in that. So I invite now the congregation to stand as we're willing and able, and to greet these new people. First, Kim Stewart.
Dawn Tarbutton.
Judith White Crow.
Michael Hughes.
Samantha Elliott.
Chris Ambergy.
Robert Ambergy.
Rowan Braybrook.
Vernita Byron.
Frank Mead.
Rachel McBain.
Judy Arbogast,
Georgina Boyson,
James Lougheed,
and Melinda Hughes. All of you in the congregation, if you'll look at your order of service, your words are there, and let's say them together. We joyfully welcome you into our congregation and gratefully acknowledge your choice to join us. May you find among us fellowship and help in the time of need. We pledge our support and our encouragement as you join us in our search for truth and meaning and our striving toward justice. And now, if our new members will say together, and if you're at home online, say them at home. Right, we come Then all of us say together, we rejoice in the promise of new connections. May those who share this journey with us always find the loving community. And into this community, our new members are now enfolded. May this congregation nurture and challenge each one of you, offering comfort and guidance and calling forth the best that is within you. May you in turn bring your energy, vision, and laughter, that this may become even more fully the community it strives to be. Now we have a gift of flowers to present to our new members as we greet them. Greetings, Tom. And Rowan, greetings. Welcome to the board as well. Now I invite you all to be seated. Yes. Yes, welcome all. It's wonderful to have you with us. And now I invite you into a moment of prayer and reflection with these words from Starhawk. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter, a circle of healing, a circle of friends. Someplace where we can be free. Amen. I know it says in your order of service sermon, but this is more like another story rather than a true sermon. One of the great blessings of being in a religious community is the opportunity that we have to share rituals and ceremonies. And those ceremonies and rituals are honored by Unitarian Universalists all over the world. Today, we're participating in at least 3 of those rituals: the lighting of the chalice, the welcoming of new members, and now the flower communion, the annual flower service. The flower communion was initiated in Prague, Czechoslovakia. In 1923, Dr. Norbert Čapek, who was the founder of the Unitarian Church in Czechoslovakia, he looked out at the people in his congregation, and he recognized that there was a need to unite all of the diverse voices, the people in his church who came from various Protestant, Catholic, and Jewish backgrounds and those traditions. So he wanted to create a ritual that differed from the traditional Christian Eucharist or communion that is normally held with bread and wine. So he created a ritual that out of something that was common to everyone, despite their religious tradition, that was common to everyone in his congregation. He looked to the natural beauty of the surrounding countryside, and he created a communion with flowers, which were then shared within that community. Now, the flower communion was so well received in the Czech congregations that it was held every year in June, just as we're having it this year. His wife, the Reverend Maya Čapek, brought the ritual to the United States in 1940, and it became equally popular with and adopted by congregations in this country. When the Nazis took control of Prague in 1940, they found Dr. Čapek's Unitarian gospel of the inherent worth and beauty of every human being to be, as those German Nazi court records show, too dangerous for the Reich for him to be able to live. Dr. Čapek was sent to the Dachau concentration camp where he died. But today, his message of human hope and decency lives on, and it lives on through the tradition of our flower service, our flower communion. Whenever Dr. Čapek conducted the flower communion in Prague, he would consecrate or bless the flowers with these words, and we do this today. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask your blessings on these, your messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and diversities of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to your holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of your most precious gifts. May we realize that whatever we can do, the efforts of all of us are needed to do your work in the world. And following that blessing, the members of his congregation came forward and took a flower, one of those flowers brought by someone else, to their home. Today, to minimize contact and a kind of a bunching up of everyone at the front, Melinda and I will take the vases of beautiful flowers to the foyer, or actually to the end of the sanctuary, and we will place them on those two small tables as you go out, so you can participate in the flower communion as you leave, and I invite you to do so by selecting a flower to take with you. And as you do so, hold in your heart and in your mind a sense of how important it is for each one of us to address our world and each other with gentleness, justice, and love. These flowers form a beautiful bouquet, each flower different from the others, and they embody the beauty of difference in our human family. Even as our lives are not alike, we share this life together, and we form a unique and beautiful community. These flowers symbolize the love we share. They represent all of you here today. Even though we know the flower's beauty will fade tomorrow, the love we choose to share with each other will not fade, but go on and on. So as you leave and select your flower, note its particular shape and beauty. It is a gift someone else has brought to you and represents that person's unique humanity. As together, we share in this Unitarian, Universalist ritual of oneness and love. I invite you now to sing together our closing hymn, Now Let Us Sing. It's number 368 in Singing the Living Tradition. And of course, we have coffee hour after this service, and to celebrate our new members, we will be serving cake out on the breezeway, so please stay for refreshments. For all of you online and wish to get together on the coffee hour, the directions are on the screen, and remember that the password is the word coffee with the capital C. And now we extinguish our chalice with these words from the Bishop Desmond Tutu. My humanity is caught up, is inextricably bound up in yours. We belong in a bundle of life. It is not, I think, therefore I am. It says rather, I am human because I belong, I participate, and I share. May the blessings of this community And our flower communion today, our new members, may the blessings of this community brighten your life this day and into the coming days. Amen, and blessed be. Now Melinda and I will carry the flowers out.